Hello. Yes, I've had a haircut. If it looks like I did it myself, well, there's a good reason for that. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this cabin. I wasn't going to film any of this at all, but this is going to appear in the background of a lot of the new Land Rover videos that I'm making. And I thought people might think I'm building a new building, and it's very much not the case. This is this has been here for a long time. And it's in terrible state. I think it was in my land and planning video that this featured briefly, and this cabin was actually built as a decoy to the cabin that I was living in, because that's how paranoid I was in those days. Here's a closer view of the south wall then, and you can see what we're up against. So I jet washed this a while ago, and yeah. So this is barely wood anymore. Basically everything below the windowsills is rubbish. What is now a 15 by 10 foot cabin, when I originally looked at it, was actually 40 foot by 40 foot. You can see these are modular panels. Each panel is 5 foot long. And you see this type of panel has got some windows in. This type of panel has got a door in it. And then there's some other panels on the back which are just blank. And these were kits that were sent out, I think they were supplied by the government after the war to build temporary, I'm not sure houses, temporary offices I suspect, or maybe accommodation on barracks or something along those lines. Very quick to assemble temporary buildings. So yeah, when I came to look at it then, these modular panels had been assembled into a 40 foot by 40 foot workshop, and someone was in there making, or had been in there making house signs, wooden house signs. So the site had been sold, and the new owner wanted to develop it, and somehow he'd got in touch with me, and basically the deal was if I could clear the site, then I could have everything for free. And in those days, being completely skint, I leapt at it. So me and my mate went down there and we spent days stripping this building down, stacking everything on my trailer, bringing it back here, and realising as we went just how rotten it all was. So from that 40 foot by 40 foot workshop, all we could make in the end was this 10 foot by 15 foot cabin, which was still, you know, not bad for nothing. Although I did have an awful lot of rotten wood to slowly put on the bonfire. Yeah, and that was a long time ago. That was well over 10 years. So when we built it, we built it with the best bits that were surviving from that, and it was, yeah, it didn't look very good even then, and obviously it hasn't got any better since then. On this end, I've replaced some of the shiplap up the top there. I've boarded up that window because it's actually I'm going to make a bit more of the lean-to I'm standing next to at the moment. So that will front up to that window anyway. And I took the glass out of that window, which I'm going to use to replace the missing bits of glass on the south side here in these windows. You might be wondering how come I've got missing glass or broken glass. And I was wondering that too when it happened. I thought, crikey, someone's been throwing stones at my windows. But then I found the remains of the window, like this one here, actually down on the floor. And you can see here what's happened is it's actually slumped and opened up there at the top. So looking down the side of the cabin like that, you should be able to see, if you look at the windowsills, they go in a straight line, and then the last section there drops down. Up on the roof there, you might be able to make out that it's quite ragged looking bitumen. Just that corrugated bitumen stuff. So I chose that at the time because one, it was cheap, two, it's quite quiet when the rain hits it. But it doesn't really last. And it's got a design life of about 10 years I think, and it's, in fairness, it's way beyond that. Right, I've climbed up on the scaff tower, and you can see here that this is quite, it gets brittle with age. This is my version of panic buying then. When it was all starting to look a bit tight at the shops, I rushed out and spent rather a lot of money on this box profile roofing sheets here and on all this timber. I must say it does go a bit against the grain to be using all new materials, especially when refurbing such a ropey old shed as this thing. The barn, the original barn, the one I live in, that was built almost entirely with reclaimed materials. I think the only so some of the frame that holds the telegraph poles up and some of the roof timbers and the roof itself, they were all new. Everything else was second hand in one way or another, and lots of it was actually free. But on the other hand, it took me about 7 years to build. I'm not going to spend 7 years rebuilding a shed. Anyway, I can afford it a bit more now, so it's fine. My first job on this then, I've replaced the shiplap that was rotten there, is to strip and replace the roof. So you can see behind me the roof sheets that I'm going to use. The only sheets I could get were 12 footers, which is fine because I'll just cut them all in half and then they'll be right for the roof. So I've laid them all out to make sure that it's going to be, they're going to fit. Because obviously with box profile you've got a bit of a limitation in where you can overlap them. So yeah, I find it best to do it on the ground first before you go putting it up on the roof. But before I do anything with the roof sheets, I'm going to finish blacking that top bit. So I'm using bitumen to do this. It's the same as I've used on the workshop walls and on the barn, and it's the best coating I've found really. It's cheap, it's durable, and you can overcoat it, it's fine. And it's nice and flexible so it doesn't crack and peel off like normal paint. But it does stick to your hands. I'm going to wear gloves. There's probably some people out there saying, oh, bitumen, it's terribly toxic. Well, yeah, it is. But that's a good thing when you're painting wood. Oh yeah, it'll stop the weevils. Well, and the rot. Yeah, it is actually quite good weatherproofing. I'm going to thin it down with white spirit. Somebody out there then said that they would be prepared to watch a video of me just painting something. So I'm not one to disappoint. Let's do it. Cool. It doesn't pay to be too fussy with this stuff. I will give that another coat. As a general rule of thumb, I aim to give everything at least 2 coats, and then you get a consistent coverage, especially when you're brushing it. Particularly like today where I've had to thin it down quite a lot to make it work. The downside of that is it's gone on quite thinly. On a summer's day, when the bitumen's runnier out the tin, yeah, I'd probably still do 2 coats. The plan is with this cabin then is to redo the roof and then rejig its positioning slightly and then chock it up again properly this time on all the corners, and by doing that I'll straighten out the sides. Then I can use that timber that I bought to replace all the rotten bits. Yeah, fair bit of work, but nothing too arduous. That's the second coat done there. And I could get it on much thicker that time because the pot had warmed up in the sun. That'll dry quite promptly. So it's really shiny at the moment, but with bitumen, when it's exposed to the sun, it very rapidly goes matte, and yeah, it'll all look quite nice. Relatively. So I'm not going to film everything that I do on this cabin. I might not even film most of it. I just thought I'd let you know what I'm up to in this corner. And yeah, we'll check in every now and again.